guys, we are on TV. Okay, I wanted to have Dawn on for a couple of reasons. First, I know that Dawn is the writer we all think of when we think of sci-fi, when we think of Gamelit. Dawn is like the expert in our eyes. Dawn is also one of those writers like Lynn Mooney that crosses the divider. Dawn is our friend and on the ACX big group, as well as a writer. Dawn has relationships with her narrators. Dawn gets both sides of the business. And I'm dying to hear the difference between sorry, we've got more people coming in. I'm dying to hear the difference between the genres. And I know that we're all really interested in anything Dawn can tell us about Gamelit as well, and what they're looking for and how it's different than the other genres that we're used to. So, Dawn, what did you start off writing sci-fi? How did you get into this business?
Originally, like my parents were always big sci-fi fans, especially my dad. So I grew up with all like Airwolf and Knight Rider and just anything, Battlestar Galactica, anything that was sci-fi was just on the TV from being a kid. So that was just like how I was brought up. I started writing when I was about 6. I went to a local car boot and begged them to buy me a typewriter to type my first story.
Oh, I love that.
So my first story was like, it was actually called Roger the Fox, which was just a little like farthing woods kind of thing. And but I just always escaped into books and writing and everything else. So that's kind of where I came from. I did write my first sci-fi book at 16. It was 170,000 words.
Wow.
And I did have a couple of friends in America to sort of like shop it around, but it was just, I was 16, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
It was full of teen angst and lots of, you know, funny things that you never want anyone to ever see ever again.
Do you still have it? Do you still
I
have
do.
it?
I do still have it. Yes, I do. But it's what no one's ever seen it. So I kind of went from there, and it was a friend of mine where I was working at the time that said to me, "Have you ever tried script writing?" And I was like, "Oh no, what's that?" So he told me what it was about, and I went away and I turned my sci-fi novel into a TV film. So I got really involved in the film community then, and I actually won a place in one of the Liverpool film universities to go and attend there for like a couple of years.
Wow.
So I went and did lots with film and sort of like, I really wanted to get into animation and things like that, but it just kind of never happened, because once you get out of university and like try and get into the film industry, it's so difficult. And it's so, I mean, everybody complains about Amazon and having trolls and people, and you know, and I mean, even, you know, narrators have people that do, you know, leave bad reviews and you know, troll them all over the internet. But the film industry is really just, yeah. So eventually I decided, no, I don't know, if I kept selling things and nothing would ever get made, and it was just like, you just get a script put on the back burner, and it attach actors to it, and you'd get really all worked up and excited, and you know,
so
makeup artists, and, yeah, and then all of a sudden it would be like, no, somebody cancelled, and you'd just be back down to the bottom again. And I was just like, I need something that's gonna fulfill me writing as well as get it out there so people can read it. And that's when I decided to go back to novels. So it was about 2013.
So you started writing again, and then just putting your things on Kindle. Was Kindle a thing back then?
It was. I can't remember. I don't particularly remember when Kindle sort of started that side of things. But I went with a novel writing coach for a couple of years, and she helped me. And I found a really good group on the internet that sort of beta read my first couple of novels, and I published the first one in 2015. And that's when I thought about and first realized there was audiobooks. I was like, and I used to listen to like the old cassette tapes as a kid, like Storyteller, and I loved them. And I'm like, why did I not think of audiobooks? It's like, so I actually found the ACX group in 2015, met Stephen J. Cohen, who's wonderful. He actually helped produce my first audiobook, and Greg Tremblay and Holly Adams, they were like my first narrators. So, but I met
how did it feel? How
Oh,
did
it was
it feel
amazing.
listening to the voices? Were you happy with them, or was it
Yeah.
jarring because they were
No,
different than in your head?
no, it was. I mean, I kind of listened to a few, and I even approached. You know what ACX is like as a new person, flabbergasted you, and I didn't have a clue. And one of my friends said, "Come and join this ACX group. Find out, find out what goes into a production," because I didn't know. I was like, "Oh yeah, it
Yeah.
was that easy, it's what." And then I was like, "Oh, this is really not easy." So I learned a lot from the group, and met Jeff Hayes and a lot of other people, and then had my first audiobook done. But the voices were great. Greg Tremblay's amazing. I love the guy. He did brilliantly, especially with an alien language that nobody else can speak apart from the guy that created it. So,
And that's a thing. I think that's what's intimidating a bit about Gamelit. I mean, all sci-fi as well, but especially Gamelit, because Gamelit, don't they often have codes and entire other languages and acronyms?
yeah, there's a lot of acronyms in it. So a lot of people come in and don't understand like a lot of gamer speech and things like that. So, I mean, I get messages all the time. What's this mean? And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's dead easy, And they're like, no, it's not. Or so, I mean, even sometimes I get stumped, and I'm like, yeah, I haven't got a clue on that one, because it's something that perhaps hasn't been in a game that I've played in the past. So it's but
Were,
there's just
were you a gamer as well? Were you a gamer before all this?
I did originally a long time ago when I was like in my teens. The games that I used to play online were like not like they are nowadays. I used to do a lot of like games workshop with the little miniatures. I was like one of the only girls that was around, and it's still like that now. Unfortunately, there's a lot of sexism towards girls. You can't play games, blah blah blah. But that's why people tend to like be the guy online, and you don't get to voice chat with them, because it's like I can be anyone that I want to be in a game. So any
Oh, do
race.
they do that? So do a lot
Yeah,
of women just go and choose the male
yeah,
characters?
of course they do, because most of the time they have better armor, they've got better clothes, they've got. It's sad to say, I don't want to wear a skimpy outfit prancing around like an idiot. But
So
yeah,
women should be creating more games then, I guess.
there's one of the girls, ladies in our genre that writes. She's actually a games designer, but she's done really well with her series. Jeff Hayes produced that. So
So do
yeah.
you add strong female protagonists to your books?
I think I do. Yeah, I mean, Protera itself is all female protagonists, so that was my. I did write another lit RPG before that, but it was a co-written project, and the co-writer moved back to his own country. And it was very difficult, so I kind of finished it on my own, and then it didn't do as well as I expected, so we kind of let it drift. But Protera was my first sort of proper Gamelit series, and that's all female protagonists. There's 5 main characters.
And what are you looking for when you're choosing your narrators? Is there a certain thing that kind of makes you think, Gamelit? Like the romance people, they're like,
Yeah.
romance. You know what I mean? Is there anything like that?
Um, there is, obviously. I mean, so, because I do actually audition for other like authors in my genre as well. I'm like the person everyone goes to. It's like Dawn knows everyone. Let's and I do kind of go through a lot of things with them. So there's certain things that you do look for, which would be like, obviously you've got the general acting, the voice itself, which you can usually tell within the first 5 to 10 seconds whether someone's going to be really good. I mean, it's even down to sound quality, whether they make mistakes in the first.
People still submitting auditions with mistakes in this
Yeah,
competitive market?
yeah, it's crazy, really, especially like audio quality as well. It's like, I mean, if you can hear things in the background, like just in general. I mean, if they cough or there's just people just do the weirdest things in auditions, which I find.
I can say hand on heart, no one on this call does.
Oh yeah, I know a lot of the people in the call. So
We
yeah.
are.
Yes,
Sorry, go
especially
ahead.
Todd. So yeah, but yeah, there's a lot of things that go into, especially when you're listening to a lot of. I mean, I had 120, 130 auditions to go through for one person, and it was like
Wow.
just. But it's like, because it's downloaded and it's put into a general file for me to look at, I'm like, there's no name. They don't say the name in the audition, and I'm like, okay, well, bye. So you've lost automatically. It's like, because he can't go back and then try and cross-reference all these 120 30 people. So
oh wow, do you know I don't slate my name on auditions? I don't.
yeah, there's a lot of people that don't, and I say it quite often in the ACX group, where it's like, if you're not going to put your name in the actual file, make sure it's got your name on the actual downloadable
Oh
file.
yeah,
So,
mine is always on the file. So as long as it's on the file, you're okay.
As long as it's on the file, then you've got confirmation of who it is.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you don't want to listen to, hi, my name is.
That's why I've stopped, and that's what I've always heard. Nobody wants to hear that a million times.
Yeah, it's just straight into the audition, because that's what we want to hear. It's the voices, it's like, and it's picking certain things that you want them to actually perform as well. So a lot of people don't give the audition scripts very well. So if you want a specific voice or a specific character, then make sure that you put that in the audition scripts, that even if it's just like, this is the female character, please, I'd like this to be, New York accent, or it's just something specific, and then that way you get a specific part that you want to hear, not just general.
So what about genre specific though?
A lot of people tend to go to narrators that are already getting established now. So a lot of them have voices that they already hear in the genre. So they're like, oh, well, I like such and such, and I'm like, well, I already kind of know the prices of everyone, or like their schedules and all that. And I'm like, well, if you can wait 6 months, then that's perfectly fine. And they're like, oh no, I want it done next week. And I'm like, well, it's not going to happen. It's these guys get booked up 3 to 6 months, 12 months in advance sometimes. And they're all like, oh, I'll have Nick Podell. And I'm like, yeah. Luke Daniels, yeah, no.
Yeah. So with that genre, so what I'm hearing is, it's not so much whether you have a certain sound that fits the genre, it's whether you've put the time in to become a known entity in the genre.
There's a lot of it goes on in our genre where it's like, people like to see you, so be involved in the community. They like a lot of just general, if you're a gamer anyway and you've done it all your life, then get involved with the group, how we react. And if somebody posts a book and you want to read it and you've liked it, then just get involved with it. But a lot of sort of like people who started out have done specifically that, and especially like with Discord is a gaming community. They love it now because it's part of being in our community straight away from the get-go. And
okay, so basically, I'm trying to think of what else, because I'm kind of asking because I'm trying to learn about the different businesses, but not for me really. It does feel like it's one of those communities like romance that like you can't just kind of fake it and slide in and out. I've done a lot of romance books, but I'm a thriller girl. And do you know what I mean? So you're always going to go to like your first love. And I know that some people have just been dying to get into the Gamelit.
There's a few narrators from Tantor who originally didn't know anything about Gamelit, and obviously they got collared for doing the actual audiobooks, and it's like they didn't understand a lot of the terminology, and that really shows in the audiobooks and with reviews. So it's definitely more beneficial to be involved around everything, then you can pick it up, even if you don't specifically game yourself. At least if you're around everyone, you start to, oh yeah. That's what that means. Because
the hardcore fans will eat you alive, won't they?
Oh yeah.
If you start getting their like quotes wrong. And I guess it's the same with most genres. I guess it's this,
they all have their own tropes. They all have their own likes and things that they do and don't like. This is why Lit RPG and Gamelit have got like slightly different umbrellas, because Gamelit itself actually covers everything that involves gaming, like card games, just basically every kind of subgenre underneath it. And then you've got Lit RPG, which is literally all the crunchy side of all the numbers, all the spells, all the details for weapons and everything. You can put all that in and everyone will call it Lit RPG, but anything else without it can go under the Gamelit umbrella now, it fits a lot more than people saying, oh no, that's not Lit RPG, that's crap. And basically nobody reads it.
What is Lit RPG?
Lit RPG is basically all the crunchy numbers, so you've got all the maths behind it. The actual game is something you can probably physically play without too much, more involved with it. So you've got all the numbers to do with the maths, so you've got everything right down to the nitty gritty of how much damage each person would take and how much health you've got left. And this is all what really goes on behind the scenes, and what makes a lot of the actual stories real to all gamers is because that they're there. If you've not done your maths right, the worst thing is if you get one math number wrong, then it's like, oh, nothing adds up for the rest of the book, and it's like, oh no. So you kind of really have to have everything spot on, and it's the first thing people will pick up on is that doesn't add up, and it'd be like, oh, your game mechanics aren't working. It's, you know,
wow.
So they're very intricately, really like to know what's all the details, and that's what lit RPG is. That's every single detail you can put in would be mostly in the book. And then you get the ones that are like, oh, there's too many stats and I don't like that being read out to me for 5 minutes. And because it's quite hard for audiobooks. It gets really monotonous, and that's when the narrator really comes in, because they make it sound interesting right through the stat sheet. It's like, oh, that's changed. So you change your inflection and your tone, and it's how everything's delivered from the get-go. And that's what makes our books stand out apart from, you know, sort of like everybody who doesn't know what they're doing with it.
And we've got some comments coming in.
Sure.
One of our members, Lori, says that her husband has some alter ego characters with super cool boots. And Nikki says it's like listening to a foreign language. I kind of agree with Nikki. And it reminds me of the guys in high school that did Dungeons and Dragons. And
that's it. Yeah, exactly.
I thought that like I'd be cool, and like I went along with them. But honestly, it was only because I had a crush on one of them. And I didn't really understand the concept.
Yeah.
I think I lack imagination. Todd says stats, and more stats. Yes, it is D&D and audio.
It is.
Okay.
It is. And a lot of people sort of like come from like proper role-playing games as well, where you actually become that character. So it's like I can be a bard and I'm sing. So you like, if you're playing the game with other people online, then you take, you know, you've got to sing to attack that character that's in front of you. So you completely become that person. So this is like how the books would be, is you're actually that character playing that game, and that's how it goes through. So they dress
up as well. So, and I know a bunch of those people, but the people I knew, they were into bondage. So I think that might be a different genre.
That's a slightly different genre. Yes, it is.
But they dressed up. What's the name of that when they dress up with like the plastic suits? What's the name of that? The whole
BDSM.
Cosplay.
Yeah. Oh no. Well, yeah. Cosplay is different. Yeah, of course it is.
So is it not cosplay what they do with this?
Yes, of course. I mean, there's plenty of places. I mean, the comic cons and the sort of like the big cons themselves have an awful lot of people that dress up as characters, and that's basically it's they want to be part of the community in that sense. But for like us, we just not pretend, but we sort of like become that character to play like the online games, which it's fun.
I quite like that. I'm picturing Dawn in like a costume now. Every time I talk to you, have you ever been to a Comic Con or anything?
Yeah, so I mean, I went to the States last year, so we went to Dragon Con, which is one of the biggest ones in the States. And that was an eye-opener for everything that goes on there. And the actual day that they all dress up was just phenomenal. The costumes were just amazing. So
wow, I quite like that. See, now suddenly I'm getting interested. When you were talking math, I wasn't.
Yeah, the math.
You're talking costumes. I can relate.
Yeah, the math side of it, I don't like.
Nancy wanted to know, and Todd suggested one, but I'm wondering, do you have any other suggestions as well? Nancy said, what would you recommend to a narrator interested in listening to a good example? And Todd said, The Land is a good book to listen to for this.
Todd's being sarcastic. Ignore Todd. No.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. I mean, the Land, a lot of people know The Land because it's one of the books that everybody just talks about, but it's not, in my opinion, a very, very good example. I mean, so one of our narrators, Andrea Parsno, she's really, really good. She does an awful lot for our genre. She's like one of the main female narrators who everybody goes to. She did my Protera series. She's done Somnia Online for one of our other female authors, Katie Hanna, which is really good.
And what makes her stand out in the genre, would you say?
She's a gamer, absolutely 100%. She came into the genre already knowing everything about it, and she just nails character voices. She puts so much effort into it. She's the best.
Wow.
So
wow. Somebody says here they love her.
Yeah, there's not a lot of female narrators. There's a few more coming in now because a lot of people are asking for duet, which is happening a bit more frequently. So there's a few more that are getting chances that they didn't before. So that's really good. But because unfortunately female character-driven stories don't sell the same as male-driven stories, a lot of people who did write them, like myself, tend to sort of err on the cautious side, and you know it's kind of it's really difficult, and it's very sad because there's a lot of people that still come in, and especially the girls that keep joining up now. It's like, oh, where's all the female driven stories? And we're like, well, they don't do well, so we're not writing anymore. And it's like, it's so sad.
I heard that about romance as well, with the whole they pay men more than women because women want to listen to men without their shirts on.
It's crazy. It is.
I never knew that was such a thing. I've got no hope getting into the thrillers. Because
I mean, it's one thing because Andrea Parsnow does really, she does a lot of male driven characters as well. Some of the books are just male main characters. She does extremely well considering she does that side. But I don't know any other female narrator that has actually done a male driven story. But oh yeah, Zora's going. She has. I haven't actually listened to yours, so I can't comment. But
Todd says nobody wants to listen to him with his shirt off.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised.
Brand. Zura said she just narrated one with 2 male main characters, and she's a girl.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Oh, well done for Zura. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's how good you are and how you deliver.
Of course,
I mean, I'm aware of going into thrillers is like the ones I want are the Jeff Harding ones, the gritty lead voice. But just because it's not done so much, as you say, this Andrea Parsnow, if you know your business and if you deliver, you can create a place. I believe that. I genuinely believe that. Tessa Irondale. Do you know Tessa Irondale?
Yeah, some of the more famous sort of narrators have, I mean, one for Mountaindale Press, Siphon. There's I can't remember her name. It's not somebody that I particularly listen to, but she's done very, very well with Jay's books. There are other female narrators, but just not particular ones that I spend a lot of time with. It's not a bad thing, but again, it's like, you know, if you kind of want to get a bit more, they're just purely narrators. They obviously they're really famous. They've got the business is already set up and stuff, so it's kind of like, it's just like everybody saying, oh, I'd like Nick Podell. It's like they want the big female narrators as well. And Andrea Parsnow is just like that now. She's booking up probably till the end of Christmas next year, especially because she does Wandering In as well, which is like 60 hours plus at a time. So it's like, there's books in there that are huge. Our genre itself and Cultivation itself are massive books. I mean, Todd knows because they're like 300,000 words and growing, so they take a long time.
And it has to be a labor of love, doesn't it?
Totally.
I mean, you're not going to get very far. I mean, I know we all as narrators do books that we don't necessarily love because it's the job. You do what comes along, but most of the time you should try to go. I can't imagine myself doing that long of a book on anything that included math. Do you know what I mean? Todd says
it's probably worse when the math doesn't add up and your narrator's chasing you going, oh, this number's not right, and I'm going, oh crap.
Demetrius says Kate Redding nailed the Codex Alera with multiple male characters. Books, I feel he thinks that's an exception.
Kate Redding is very famous as well, so there's a few up there. I mean, we'd all love those kind of narrators, but of course, starting out, you only have a certain budget if you've got a budget at all. So,
but also you could discover the next great narrator. Do you know what I mean?
Of course.
Everyone starts somewhere. So
exactly.
on your butt, but it just makes your job harder sifting through
I,
them.
I find, and what I find sort of like auditioning with other people is that I do get to listen to a lot of people I've never heard before. So, but they have a specific style of voice and a specific that didn't kind of suit the story that like the person I'm working with has, but I'd be like, oh, that's totally perfect for such and such a body. And I keep them in mind for something else. So it's something that when somebody approaches me, then I can say, oh yeah, I think this person would be specifically great for you, straight out the gate. And they go and listen. It's like, oh yeah, let's see if we can get them on board. So it works. So
how much time do you have for your writing at this point with all that going on? Are you still getting, and also do you depart from this? Do you do mostly Gamelit at this point, or do you still go back and do soft, like science fiction, like
my sci-fi has been an ongoing project since 2015. Unfortunately, it stalled. I think just sort of like the end of 2017, just before I started my first lit RPG book. But my sci-fi is now at 2 million words. So it's growing. I just keep writing it as that's my side project that I have fun with, because I believe everyone that works on a particular project needs a pet project.
Wait, so one book? One book?
No. It's 9 books, and originally it was written as a TV show. So I've written each little episode as a standalone novel, and there's like.
And is it like a Twilight Zone or a Strange Days, or what's that show? Strange Days? Stranger Things. Is it that kind of sci-fi?
No, it's more like just aliens coming to Earth and settling down, and it's all like big stuff like that. So
you've created a whole world.
Yeah, I mean, it's 3 generations. Books. Yeah, it's 3 generations. So
and have they been narrated, any of them?
Greg Tremblay did the first one, and Holly Adams did some of the short ones. But eventually, I would like to get them all back to do the rest of them. But I'm holding off publishing them until I think probably 2023, maybe. It's a labor of love. It's a labor of love going through editing all that, because I do it like when I can get certain things done, because obviously my main projects take up all the time, really.
But those kind of books don't you think that those are the ones that become classics? Those are the ones that the writers write like their whole life, and they stay there forever.
Yeah,
they're the ones you do for bread and butter, and then for love.
Yeah, that's definitely my love project. It will. I mean, it spans so many different storylines and characters that anybody. I am actually going to start getting people to narrate it probably next year, so that I can build it up like I have done the books, and then just because my plan is to just release it all one after the other just probably 12 months. But
I think that's lovely.
That's the goal. But
so do you have any suggestions? Things that you run into with working with narrators, things that you've learned about your relationship with narrators, because you've seen both sides of the fence. Things, communication, what do you wish we knew from your perspective?
I mean, obviously with the big publishing houses, you can't communicate, which is, I think that's the hardest thing, is when you get somebody that's working on your book and you can't talk to them, because it's like, they just don't do it. And I found working closer with people that I've been involved with, especially like Andrea, and I mean, I work with Annalise Rennie as well, and Suzanne Barbella. They did all of Patera, and they were all brilliant, and I spoke to them, and they've become I met them all last year in Kansas, which was great. So it's like they do become part of your life, and you've always got them involved so that you can go to them for any other projects in the future. It's about building relationships. So everyone that I work with and everyone that is around me in the Discord communities, it's just like you've got this whole group of friends around you that are always there to sort of like, somebody comes to me with a question, I'll answer it straight away. It's like, I don't tend to do Facebook a lot because most of my time is Discord. But if anybody asks me in them groups for something specific, I'd answer them straight away. But with
Suzanne, can I just say, I don't want to interrupt you, but I've got to say before I forget, I remember when Suzanne first found out she was going to work with you.
Yeah,
she was so excited.
I know.
She was so like honored to be working with you. It was lovely.
She is adorable. She's an amazing narrator as well as a person.
Yeah.
And it was so great to meet her last year, because it was just I mean, nobody knew what was going to happen. It's like Andrea Ems flew out specifically because I was there. She didn't know, she wasn't going to go, and then it was like she had this deadline, and then she was allowed an extra day, and she was like, right, I'm flying to see Dawn. And I felt like a celebrity there. It was brilliant because I went there to obviously meet my publisher as well, because I actually pitched to Dakota Kraut while I was in Kansas. So I dragged him away to talk to him about my series that I wanted to work with him with Mountaindale. And then his wife came out about probably 2 hours or so later, because I talk forever. It's like she came out and she's like, Dawn, everybody's asking about you. You need to come in. So when I went in, it was like there was just uproar everywhere, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, Dawn's here!" And it was just amazing. I felt like a celebrity.
But you have a knack for building relationships.
Yeah.
Have you always found that easy, or is it something you've worked on, or why do you think you have that? Because it's difficult. It's difficult, and it's difficult to keep it up. There's so many people. I find myself getting fatigued easily. What do you do?
I don't know how I do it. I really don't. It's just I tend to observe a lot. So it's like I see a lot of things that people. I manage the Gamelit Society, and I've done that since 2017, 16-17, where I became like an admin moderator there. So I became heavily involved with the community like a good few years ago. And I tended to observe and watch everything. So everybody sort of came to me and everybody has come to me for a long time. So it's like, it is one big family. So I tend to observe. If I'm online, I see everything that everybody's doing all the time. I mean, not so much in the ACX group, but I do tend to, you know, see things that people post and other things like that. But with the Discord community, I tend to be in, I think I've probably 10 major groups that I'm involved. I've got my own server. I'm in Dakota Kraut's fan group, which is really, really active, which I tend to not be able to keep up a lot with. And there's a couple of others that are really good, and that like the narrators ones who came this year. So you've got like Travis, Steve Campbell, and then the Haven and the Nook, which are all like really good for different genres as well. They do romance. The Haven's like romance and all that as well. So
do you know what? I grew up with a girl like you, and I've just realized something.
Oh, no.
I think I've just realized something. It isn't a matter of tell me if I've got this wrong, but the one every single thing you've said, every single person you know, every single relationship you have, the one thread that runs through all of it is that you go straight towards things you're passionate about.
Yeah,
and your motivation is always that you love doing what you're doing at the moment. You're doing it because you're interested.
Yeah, I love people. I love the people in my community, and it's like, I mean, I had a lot of people around me, and especially with like new authors and stuff, I love to help them. But sometimes even in the ACX group, you get people ask questions all the time that are so similar, and you're like, oh, please go and search. So that's why I tend to not do the Facebook groups as much anymore. But if people are actively involved in the Discord groups and they've got questions, and I'm there, then I don't mind answering. Because at the end of the day, it's for everyone, time's money. And you know, if I'm specifically answering somebody direct messages on Facebook, then nobody else is learning. So it's like, don't ask me stuff on Facebook. Yeah. Come to the Discord group, ask in the general community, and then if there's anyone else there, they'll answer your question as well. It's like, you know, if you're not sure how something works, or you're not sure of a question, or you've got a pretty new sort of author question to ask somebody, there's always people around, and it's not always just me then. And if it's specific to something that I know, I will answer. But the communities themselves really run quite smoothly. We get the odd hiccup, but not all the time. It just takes, you've got to keep strict with rules. That's the same as everything.
You were on a Thursday call, right? That's why I don't allow questions on the Thursday call, because I don't want it to turn, because everyone wants to help. But if starts asking questions, next thing you know, the entire call is people helping, and it's usually things that could be found on the ACX group or anywhere. And you want it to be a time that each person gets a chance to so you've given me a really different perspective. I mean, I know you've taught us a tremendous amount about the genre and getting into the genre and what it requires. I don't think a lot of us understood unless we were already fans. But aside from that, I was battling with all the online socializing and fitting into the groups, and you want to be everyone's friend, and you are everyone's friend, but you've got to work as well.
Of course.
But you just keep doing what you love. You seem to keep going back to, I'd love to do all this, but I got to do what I love. I'm in charge of this because you do like 6 people's, I mean, the things you're involved in, I don't really understand how you have time, but you seem to do it. But it's like you keep just going back to what you love. And the people automatically, I think, everyone wants to do what they love.
Of course.
So if we're all spending all our time doing what we love, we'll be like a shining light.
Exactly. It's not. It's you don't get upset by anybody, you know, asking stuff all the time. You're in there because you love being in there. So it's being around people that just are generally involved and do. It's like I keep like the authors going as well. I've got like an authors group. So a lot of us in there, I mean, through the day we work. That's what we do. It's like, you know, when the narrators go into Discord and they're recording, it's not that they're just having a laugh. Now and again they stop, they answer questions, they, you know, they have a bit of a joke, and or if it's a steamy scene, it's, oh god, I need a break, you know. That's how things work, and that's how I like to keep the Discord running as well. It's like, if we're working, we are working, and we do what we call sprints. So we write specifically for a certain amount of time, then we take a 10-minute break, we chat, we catch up with Facebook, we do whatever we want, then we get back to it. And I tend to do that with every other job that I've got. So it's like editing, or if I'm audio proofing, I'll do that as well. So I've got all anything I do will be run like clockwork throughout the day. And that's what also brings people to you as well, because like they look at me as, we're not just here to mess around, it's a gamers channel. We do have a job to do. We're not, you know, we're not going to pay the bills unless we actually write. So, you know, Dawn's here, we've got to work now, you know, should get the whip out kind of thing. But but having other people around you that want to work as well helps you keep going. So
what about the breaks? How often do you take breaks, and are you good at enforcing that on yourself?
Most of the time, yeah. I mean, I tend to work for 50 minutes. So if I write, it'd be 50 minutes, and then it's a 10-minute break. I get up, walk around, go make a drink, go, you know, toilet break, go outside for 5 minutes, and then come back. Or sometimes you go over a bit, you know, or you've got another job to do, like make a phone call, and you know, so it's not always perfect, but you try and get the routine going as often as you can, and then that way you're not just sitting at the computer playing on Facebook. You're there to, you know, to work. Basically, it is a hobby, but it's not. It's still a job, and that's the way you
love
have
what
to
you do. That's the dream.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wants to. It's like some of the sort of like the new authors that come in who've done really, really well and are going full time. They're like, how do you manage it? Because a lot of them don't understand that when it's a hobby, it's very different. And when they come into it full time, it's like, oh, I've got 15 hours in the day, I can game all morning. And then they come to the afternoon, it's like, I can't write, this is no good. And it's like, so they come to me to ask, like, how do we specifically start off with routines and things like that. And I say, if you're going to do it straight away, because if you take 2 weeks off and you play around, you're going to really struggle to get into that routine. And a lot of them who do that, then they're like, oh, Dawn, why didn't I listen to you? And it's like, because you wanted to play games, you want it. And I treat it like, you do the work first, then you go and play the games, because that's your playtime. You can go and do anything you want afterwards. And they do. That's how a lot of them think. It's like, yeah, get the words out, get stuff done, and then go and play. So
yeah, I think I've found that I'm not good at playing. I'm a bit of a workaholic, so then I just do too much and then collapse. Guys, don't forget to get your questions in if anyone has any questions, because I can keep Dawn talking until next week.
I think everyone realizes I can as well.
Yeah, but you see, that's the best kind of guest to have. That's so what would you like to say to narrators don't do? Mistakes. And don't worry, nobody will be offended. It's feedback.
I know. I mean, the hardest things is don't be afraid to ask questions. You know, at the end of the day, your authors you're going to work with, you know, if you're not sure how to pronounce the name, go and ask them, because don't get it wrong. You know, it's worse that kind of way. It's like with if you're not specific with a particular gamer term, then ask the same. We're not, but we don't bite. We're indie authors just the same as, we want to make the books the better. If there's a mistake in it, please let us know. Don't just, I find the questions that come up in the ACX group a lot of the time is like, oh, and everybody talks about editing, which is, it's the same in for the author community. Everybody's version of editing is very different. Nobody specifically sticks to a specific style with editing. You get people that are like, oh yeah, but grammar rules are grammar rules. And I'm like, yeah, but they're really not, because you can give your chapter to 10 different editors and get 10 completely different versions back. So it's like, if you see the odd error on a page, it's like, you don't have to make a note of it, but you can tell the author, look, there's mistakes in it. If you want to fix them, go through, listen to the book, change the mistakes in your manuscript as you go. That's basically what I do as a proofer for the people that I work for. Because this is another reason, because I love the genre. It's like, if anybody, like my narrators come to me and it'd be like, yeah, okay, so I listen to all the book and the authors get a copy back with all the errors in it, because that's what I do. That's how I work with the people I work with. So it's
yeah, that's a good one. I have a comment. I have a question. Rebecca was wondering, I never see Gamelit auditions posted anywhere. Is that because my female filter on ACX blocks them, or are authors casting people directly?
A lot of it, Gamelit, they don't specifically, there's no genre tag for it. So they tend to either go in as sci-fi fantasy or cyberpunk, or there'd be like any other kind. It can literally be anything. A lot of the genre itself will have harem elements. So a lot of them, there's a lot of books that are coming out at the moment, and the genre itself with harem and Gamelit is very, very big. So a lot of them will probably
with what was the other word?
Harem. So like, like one guy with like 4 girls.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's a harem.
I've been here like 100 years. You'd think I'd get the accent by now. Well, what is cyberpunk? I love the name and I want to do lots of it, but I don't really understand what it is.
Cyberpunk itself is its own genre, so it's like part of sci-fi, but it's like really futuristic, so that is its own genre in itself. But because there's no specific tag for us on Amazon, a lot of our books tend to end up in cyberpunk sci-fi or military sci-fi or just literally anywhere, and then you get all the like cyberpunk authors going, I can't get the top spot because the 10 Gamelit books that, so it's really difficult. We keep I think like Audible, I'm not sure whether it's Amazon, Audible do recognize some lit RPG now, and they do tend to put out like certain things that recognize the genre, but it's still not got its own tag. So it's very difficult. So you'd never particularly find one on ACX as that. But like the people that do, I post to the ACX group if anybody comes to me. It's like, I've got such and such a book. I'm only finding a few narrators coming to me. Why? So I go and have a look, and it's like, okay, we need to alter this, this, and this, and I'll go and post it in the group. So a lot of them, it's difficult, and a lot of the authors don't understand audiobooks, so it's educational for them as well, for them to come to me, because I can then tell them, what works, what doesn't. You can't offer 50 pay per hour, it's not going to work. I had one gentleman who paid really low, and the first day his book was out, I was like, yeah, get it off, Ace, pull it now, you're going to ruin your whole career, get it down. And that's the only person I've ever done it to, and now he's got a 9-book series out, and I love it, it's fantastic. He does really, really well. So there's quality in everything, and a lot of people just don't expect to be paying $300 and $400 per finished hour for audiobooks, which is obviously what for the quality, it's what you need to pay. That side of it's sad. But
so do you have conversations quite often with authors explaining that to them?
Oh yeah, all the time, especially in a lot of the groups. I'm not like the best person on a lot of like finance situations, and a lot of like, there's a lot more people that understand market. Tao's one of them. A lot more people that understand marketing than me. So I don't, if there's any kind of questions like that, well, I'll be like, I don't specifically know, but I can try and find out. And I try and do that, but it's time dependent as well. I just send them to different people if it's something that I don't understand. But for audiobooks and stuff like that, there's a lot of people that are like, I really don't understand this process, help, which I don't mind. Again, it's in a public place, not in personal messages, because they get too many.
Yeah.
I'm not spending all day in private messages.
So there's a side conversation going on about the difference between cyberpunk and steampunk.
Oh God, yeah, totally.
They've cleared it up. When I said that I loved the idea of cyberpunk, it turns out I meant steampunk. I'd never even heard of cyberpunk in my life.
Oh, right, okay.
And the only reason I like steampunk is because of the fashion, if I'm honest.
Yeah, steampunk itself is the cosplay for steampunk is amazing, and I'd love to write a steampunk, but yeah, I'm doing cyberpunk next. That's fine.
But would you ever write a steampunk?
Probably not. I'm more sci-fi me, so it's definitely...
yeah. So okay, so this is going to sound like a mother question. We're talking about a very cool genre, and I have a feeling this is going to peg me as uncool. So the kind of sci-fi that I love is like time travel, Twilight Zone, weird things happen to people in weird situations. Is that not even really considered sci-fi? What genre would that all be?
It is. It's still sci-fi, but it's more the sort of, I'd say like the 80s. Yeah, it's like the 70s. No, because I mean I was brought up with that. Twilight Zone, I watched all of them, and you know, it's the like the classics, and you can never get away from them, but they are sort of like the 80s set early, you know, that sort of genre era for sci-fi. Sci-fi nowadays is more like, you know, really special effects and really sort of high tech, all that kind of stuff. But
time travel is its own genre. I got into time travel. I did get into time travel. I think I've got like 12 time travel books.
So, Todd says I seen Doctor Who. Yeah, I actually never liked Doctor Who, so I didn't mind the spin-off Torchwood. I love that, but
I love Torchwood. Oh my God, but Torchwood is like Twilight Zone, The Glitch, The Leftovers. I love things where like something weird happens to everyone in the whole world. I love that kind of thing.
It's just Captain Jack, you know, you just can't get away from it. It's just brilliant.
Right, okay, and there was that as well. The thing with Doctor Who is I did love the idea of Doctor Who, and I liked it for a few seasons because it was a big occasion when it would come on over here. I don't know if I was starting to drink too much around dinner time, but I got to a point that I just literally could not understand what was happening.
Yeah, I think
it made me feel stupid.
Yeah, some hard sci-fi is really like. I mean, my series with Mountaindale Press is science fiction lit RPG. So I tried to not write it like really hard sci-fi. I went in with it sort of it would have sort of like all the sci-fi themes through it, but really I didn't like get really technical with like space travel and tech to you know, and all that. But I tried to keep it real. Because sci-fi fantasy itself is its own subgenre. So you've got where like science fiction and fantasy meet. So you've got like the magic side that can cross over. So there's a lot of different styles and different ways you can go with things. But then you have the fans that follow the different types. So you'd never get a hard sci-fi person to come in and read, you know, like fantasy sci-fi, because they're just not it. They like the really hard rules and the tech that comes with it.
Yeah, so they're hardcore. So I think that's
really hardcore. It's like Lit RPG and Gamelit. You've got those that like the more fantasy kind of things, and then
And I've got another comment. I'm noticing a theme here. Lori says she loved Tom Baker, the Doctor Who and it's like you, but the guy from Torchwood. Yeah. We're not actually watching this because of the sci-fi, are we, guys?
No, not really.
Todd's watching it for the sci-fi.
Yeah.
And if I'm honest, the Doctor Who, that last guy, was the reason. I think
David Tennant,
don't like the characters.
Yeah, I just didn't like it, some of them anyway. It was a bit. Yeah. I prefer Battlestar Galactica in space.
See, I prefer suspense thriller and like psychological and I'll even go to horror. You know what I mean? I quite like.
Yeah, I like horror. I grew up with Stephen King and Dean Koontz. My mum was always reading their books, so I read all them books when I was a teen. So
a woman of refined taste. Yeah, that's the stuff. I love that.
Yeah, it's good.
Wow. So this has been enlightening. So what I'm going to leave you with this, Dawn.
Okay.
I'm going to throw a big one at you. What do you think the future of the genre is? Do you think that it's going to burst open wide and more people are going to come in from different areas and be let in? Or do you think it's going to get more specialized with the same people getting more jobs? How do you see it
Um,
going?
I think because a lot of the narrators that are already in it are getting booked up. There's lots of spaces for new people, but it is a case of get involved, get talking to people, be involved with the authors in the groups, and if people are actively looking and not so much, don't go cold calling. Everyone hates that. Nobody likes, oh, I've got this, and I get it on even in Discord. People like, oh, they do. I had somebody the other day who started messaging me completely out of the blue, and I was like, "Where are you? Where? I don't even know where they've come from. I'm in like 100 servers, and it's like, and they just start messaging me about writing a reverse harem and all this, and I'm like, please, just give me a minute to get my stuff together, and I might
But
think
they
about answering
wanted you to help them learn how to
Yeah,
write a reverse harem?
yeah, and it's like, where do all the authors hang out? And I'm like, well, she was, I think they were in actually a group, a couple of the groups that I was in. So I eventually, because it comes up, then you've got mutual servers when you can eventually find out where they've come from. So and then I pointed her, and I've got a list on Facebook of all the groups. I just pointed her to that and went, yeah, go and join, talk to whoever you want to talk to, kind of thing. But be involved with as many places as you can be, and just keep watching. It's very difficult to be really involved in social media, so pick specific places and specific spots where you want to be, and like spend, even if it's just your dinner break while you're having a drink or a cup of tea. The Discord servers with the narrators are great because you go in and do your work. Go in and actually record. It doesn't matter if you're doing romance or erotica. There's people that will listen, and they're just there because they like the noise in the background. I actually edit while I'm listening to some of the people that are there, and it's just being part of the whole community.
I was wondering, I was thinking of actually giving it another try, but at this point, is it not hard to find a room? Because see the time difference here. I
There
record in the middle
is,
of the afternoon, and I
yeah.
feel like nobody's going to be awake anyway. I've got a time travel book coming up, and I don't
There's,
think the writer would mind me doing it live. Right now, I'm working on books for publishers. I can't do them.
so I mean that's fair, but if you can just drop in, because there's plenty of rooms. If there's not a room,
Is
there's
there?
always a mod. Yeah, if there's no room, there's always a moderator or something. They can just make one specially for you. It's just like there's always a spot where you'd be able to go, and even if you just take a tea break and go and listen to somebody else for 10 minutes, have a little chat, and just meet other people as well, because a lot of people found this year, being so isolated with COVID as well as everything else, it's been a lifeline for a lot of people, just being part of the community itself and talking to others, even if it's just text. I mean, obviously there are rooms where you can talk to each other like Zoom. It's video, it's the same, but you don't
Yeah.
have to. Just hanging out just through the day, just
I think people really do need, because I'm seeing so many posts on Facebook, people confessing that they felt suicidal, they've had a hard
yeah,
time, they're suffering
it's been really
depression.
difficult.
It's a double whammy of the
It
climate, and I think
is.
especially in
It
America
is.
at the moment. And it's made me realize, because I'm kind of the opposite. I'm quite happy. My friend referred to me as a misanthrope.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm not. I love people, but just in controlled amounts, like on Zoom and everything. I don't have that missing hugging people thing. But
Yeah.
I feel for other people, and I think that Zoom is a lifesaver. I mean, we can complain about it, but we've got eye contact. I feel like I've made really good
Exactly.
friends since the
Yeah.
coronavirus. And hopefully we'll be able to walk away and hold on to that when things get a little bit
There's a
easier.
there's a lot of people in the Discord groups who've made really, really good friendships as well. I mean, the girls in the Haven are so close, and it's really nice to see that everybody gets on. I mean, they even do sprints with recording. It's like they have a good game. They set the sprint bot running, because I brought that over to the Discord. It's like, yeah, well, this is how we do it. why don't you see if, and it's not about recording fast, it's still about doing your job and just having fun. At the end of the day, if you do 10 minutes or you do 5 minutes, it doesn't matter. It's just about taking part in and just enjoying each other's company, and you're working together and you're still doing your job, but you've got other people around you, and that's how they've really come such a long way in the few months that it's been going. And that's been great.
That's why I'm tempted to bring the time travel, because I remember when I did do it, I got twice as much done.
Yeah, they do as well. They really were.
I don't understand how you get more done, because you keep going back chatting.
Yeah, but it's still because it consistently keeps you going, instead of like, oh, I can just go out the booth and have a minute and stroke the cat and the dog. And, you know, it's like everybody's like, I'll just play on Facebook instead. But because people are watching, it's like, I can't play on Facebook. I'm going to get on with it.
Yeah.
You know,
I can't buy one more pink faux fur coat while I'm supposed to be recording.
Exactly. You can't do it because people are watching. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you would think. Lori said, reverse harem, isn't that romance? And I thought the same.
Reverse harem there's a couple of Gamelit reverse harems. It's not as popular because obviously the genre itself tends to be more males. So you're gonna sell more if it's a male main character anyway. So there's sort of like the reverse harem for the genre. There's a few about, but I honestly don't know how they've done. There's a couple of people that have written them, but like I said, it's not something that I did have one going on for Patera for later on in the series, but I haven't finished it. It's about 30,000 words. I just never got round to finishing it yet. And
what is reverse harem again? One woman and more men?
Yeah, so it'd be the opposite of like harem. I mean, it's got the tag of reverse harem, when technically it's all harem. It's just like, you know, different people.
I've learned a lot. Now at least I won't sound like someone's mother.
It's a big genre itself. Reverse harem is massive. There's a huge, but they're very, very strict on their tropes. They like it specific ways, just like a lot of like romance. You've got to have the happy end, you know, happy ending kind of thing.
Yeah, see, don't. Yeah, see, that's why I like thrillers. Yeah, most of my favorite characters are dead.
Exactly. If I write, I can't write romance because I mean I never have. I've got fans sobbing at me, and my next book out is I actually wrote it for 2 of the female fans in my Discord because they were like, oh please, you've got to read us a piece for like one of my launch parties. I was like, I can't read it because it's all a guy, and they're like, I said I'll write something. So I went and wrote a specific character into the series, and I read that out to them instead. But it's like you've still got to find your own tropes in that. There's certain things. There's no happy ending yet for my character there. Not yet. There might be. I don't know.
You see, I've got to confess, I am quite good at romance, and I do quite like it.
Yeah.
And they do always have happy endings, but what I like about it is the bit where I get to make them cry. I love I love the whole breakups, but I do get a bit impatient with, you knew you liked each other on page 2. It's been 7 hours.
No, that's the best thing. That's the best part.
Yeah, I was never that patient. I knew who I liked in the first minute I met him, and that was it.
But it's like Mulder and Scully. It's like, I mean, how many series for that was there? It's like they were like agents.
That's why I didn't like it.
Mulder and Scully were great.
I got so fed up with them. It was like,
but then they brought the film out where they got together and had a baby, and I was like, no, and he can't. It's like,
see that it distracted from the proper. We've got questions coming in. Hold on. Todd, I did several books for an author, and in each book there was a character that I really loved to narrate and liked how they were written, and each and every time he killed them in the end. That's the best bit, because you're tearing at the listener's heartstrings.
Yeah,
Lori wants to know something.
When you kill people, it's like, when people crying at you, like, I didn't mean it. I did.
But you know those TV series where they kill like somebody and the fans freak out. I mean, some writers have had actual death threats because they killed famous characters. Lori says, what does a good lit RPG audition script look like for demos?
It all depends on what the author's asking for. At the end of the day, they're going to ask for different things. So it will have male and female characters on it. It's going to have like a specific where it have like the voices. So you've got like dwarves. Whether you go with, everybody likes dwarves being Scottish. I don't particularly know why, but that's the way it is.
Did you say dwarves?
Dwarves, yeah. So you've got dwarves who are Scottish, and it's like, I mean, they're going to expect certain tropes. So yeah, I mean, of course, do what people kind of expect, but don't be frightened to break out and do something yourself as well. It's like, go a little bit above and beyond. It's, you know, if you want to audition for Gamelit Lit RPG, listen to some of the good narrators that are out, like Andrea, and like you've got Steve Campbell, you've got Travis, who does an awful lot, and there's others that are coming, like Zora. She's got, you know, pass me, you know, everything and anything, and then that way you've got another option for what. There's nothing. The author at the end of the day has a voice in their head of what they want. So even though I'm there and I can still offer, and it's like, yeah, well, this is kind of like, they always say to me, well, who do you like? And I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't matter who I like, it's who you like. So you've still got to have, and even like for me, it's like, I've got to, even though I'm kind of guiding them, if it's the person they like them. You know, if they say it and they go to their fans and say, I mean, I know Todd's done this, so it's like, you've got 5 people and then the fans get to pick which one they like. So it's like, it's not just me, you've got other people involved. Just do the absolute best you can and just hope, you know, at the end of the day, it's like any audition, you might not fit that author's specific voice choice. It's not specifically you that's the problem, it's just that it's not that right time. But don't give up. It's same as anything.
And in a demo, if you were to do a demo for, say, your website, you were going to do Lit RPG, would you include stats in it to show that you could make them interesting and do them? But that's not really the most interesting thing, because a demo is supposed to be very short and what would grab your attention immediately.
Maybe not the stats, but you've got like, I mean, the AIs themselves have certain characters speak, so they'd have like a snarky comment that they'd specifically say in the book. So you're not specifically going to have to read stats screens out. It'd just be like, oh, you have leveled up, blah, you know, you've won a frog. Just, you know, that thing. But you know, you make it sound, I mean, in Discord itself, you've got we have a bot that levels up the more you actually text talk. So every time that when Travis is narrating, the people that are in listening to him talking while he's working, and they get to level up. So if the person levels up, he reads it out and he puts on such a little performance for that one little level up. And that's the exciting part of being in the Discord. It's like,
I don't understand what's
John,
the level
you
up.
have level. It's like, John, you have leveled up. You are now level 32, and it just becomes part of the Discord community, and it's a bit of fun that we have that the narrators can do. But that's just
what's a level, Dawn? I kept seeing that. I didn't understand what that meant though.
In Discord, it's basically there's like a Discord bot, which the more you talk, the more you level up. So it's just like, as you would in a game, it's like you've got so many points to hit before you get to that level. So it becomes just that game, and that's how you progress through. So people that talk the most, like me, will always tend to be at the top. So it's just the fun side of it. You don't have to take part. A lot of people get really into it and become really competitive, and they just spend all day talking. I'm like, I haven't got time for that. So. But that's the kind of statistic that you'd probably want to use as an audition, is something that is just really simple and not like the 5-minute kind of stats that people do tend to have. So
I love that. And Zura said that the book I narrated is a great intro to Lit RPG.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think it's the key. It's like with any other genre, is listen to a few of the books. And yeah, I'm thinking the fact that the first thing in my mind right now is, oh, I don't know if I could listen to a whole one, probably means that I'm not a Lit RPG girl.
Yeah. So the thing is, with some of them, it's not all stats, it is literally story. So, I mean, like with Patera, the first book, Desert Runner, is literally about an NPC, and she's literally got one specific job to do through the book. And it's just like a really short book itself, but there's no big massive game stats to it. It's literally a story. So there's a good few out there that are story based, not specifically.
Yeah, see, that's what I would like. Story,
so
character.
So that's the kind that's the kind of book that you kind of can introduce to people. It's like people say, well, I don't understand it. So it's like, well, what kind of book would be interesting to somebody who's only listened to sci-fi or fantasy? And it's like, there's some really good
kill
more
someone.
fantasy. Yeah, there's some really good fantasy fantasy based books, rather than them just being, you know, all stats and all. It is mostly to do with a game, but it's not the be all and end all of it. It's still characters, it's still story. So
yeah, I'm really glad you agreed to come on, because to be honest with you, when I asked you to come on, I was laser
it's like
focused.
6 months ago.
I know, but I knew you were one of the first people. Remember, I chased you because you were like, okay.
Like,
I was like,
this?
Dawn, you're coming on. The thing is I know for a fact that so many people are curious about this genre, and I know that you're beloved amongst narrators, and I know your reputation, and I know that you're always there and that you could give so much to us. But what I didn't realize was that in my big quest to be this, like, I'm going to really, really look after my cup of joe narrators, they're going to love this call. I didn't realize that I was going to have such a big takeaway from this. And the key word, and I'm gonna use this for myself for the rest of the year, because it isn't about networking, because we're all doing all these Zoom things and we're going to these retreats and we're doing them to learn, but then everyone networks and everyone's best friends afterwards, and you want to do that and keep
exactly
up. But it's always a losing game, because the more people you meet, the more people everyone else knows, and you start to feel like the kid in school that's like not quite got the right outfit, and you lead with passion for what you're doing. Every single sentence that came out of your mouth on this call was about something you loved and you wanted to communicate, just out of the pure love of it to people. And
it's definitely love for, and the community itself just loves everything and anybody that, if you're passionate about it, it will show. If you don't know what you're doing and you're really not interested, then that's really going to come across to most people in our genre. If you really love it, and I mean, everyone says, oh, it's going to blow up, and it has. There's a lot more people that write it now. It's really, really good, because I love books. I want people to write it. Everyone says, oh, it's going to be horrible and there's going to be more people that are just writing for the money, but the people that are interested in it will stick around. Those who love it will stay, just like I will. It's like it doesn't matter if, like, I mean, the book I've got coming out in a couple of weeks, it's female character. If it doesn't sell, I don't care, because I love it. I created her for my fans, and that's who I am. And the funny thing is like, everybody comes in, it's like, where's the female character driven books? And it's like, oh, they all recommend Patera, they all recommend Somnia Online. There's another author, TJ. He's written a female main character, and he does really, really well. And so it's just, we need to grow our female characters as well as like write other things. So if we don't encourage other female writers to come in and female narrators, we're never going to grow as a genre itself in my book. And that's how I try and get everybody to, don't expect it to sell millions if you write it, but it's still going to do okay. It's, you know, it's, every single book's different. There's people that come in and ask, why's my book flopped? And I'm like, well, and then the next one hits and you're like, you just don't know what's going to happen. This genre is completely unpredictable.
But what you lead with, but I think part of the difference between the people that flop and the people that don't is the difference between the way you approach your work and the way I've been approaching my work is so crystal clear to me right now, because I love horror and thrillers and suspense, and I love it. I could talk forever, but I don't ever talk about it because I think I'll bore other people. And I think that I have to like engage in all the other stuff to network, to build the business, because that's, so you think that the thing you love isn't going to make you money, but your field, your genre wasn't necessarily like Hollywood when you started, Hollywood glitz and glamour, I'm going to make a fortune, but you just pursued what you loved for the sake of love.
Yeah.
And stuck to it and just kept doing what you love. And that's all
Yep.
you need. You don't need
It
to
is.
like go on about the business and try to fit into the other groups and everything. It just, I'm so getting on Facebook after this call and like looking up thriller groups and like
Yeah,
just
you totally should.
out with them.
Get them on Discord. Go and meet other thriller writers on Discord. You know, at the end of the day, bring people to a place where you can it's all about cultivation, and this is how I look at it. Everybody's like, oh, there's so many Discords out there that are dead. I'm like, yeah, because it takes effort. You have to be there. You have to cultivate it all the time. But if you're out there and you see somebody who you think would benefit it, bring them in, you know, get them across, get them
I mean,
doing
if you
something.
love it, and I think that's the thing. If you love it, it would come naturally. I'm trying to find, Todd says, I've got a couple of questions. I don't want to lose them before we're going to keep you here till next week. So I've got to, Todd says, Don is a rock star. It's sort of like video games as well. They're looked at as male dominated audience. Same with comic books. That's why he trained his youngest as a gamer. She can now kick his butt and everything and others online. I love that.
That's great. Yeah, that's
And
brilliant.
Todd wants to know, and then, and Rebecca, yes, I definitely want people to think of me when they think of horror. I've even got my entire website looking like the cover of a Stephen King book.
Brilliant.
Yes, yeah, I love
Exactly.
Harlan Coben, Jeff Harding. Love it. I want to be the psycho killer.
See, Joe Hempel comes into the Discord, and he's completely horror with the fireside horror. He set that up.
Yeah, I've joined Fireside Horror. I love that.
Talk to Joe. Joe's brilliant, and in Discord he works like a Trojan. He's like completely focused, and he
I think I'll bring my time travel book to it. Now Todd wants to know, where do you find Discord? Do you know where? I know Avon wrote an instruction cheat sheet.
Yeah.
Do you know where we can find it for Todd?
Yeah, it's I mean, I'm still signed in at Discord. So what happens with Discord is they tend to have a permalink. So each Discord will have a link. I will link, if you post in the Cup of Joe, I'll make sure that I link back to my big list of Discord groups.
Okay, so what I do, I always post saying thank you for the call. So maybe you could comment below.
Yeah, I'll comment below with the links for the Discords, and then you can join whichever you want. There's literally about 8 narrator Discords and like 50 million Gamelit ones. So you might not want to join all the Gamelit ones because they might overwhelm you, but there's some really good ones that are quite active, which are worth stopping by and just poking in, just saying, you know, like I said, just have a tea break, sit and chat with a couple of people. It's you never know who you're going to come across who would be like, there's a lot of people that are just gamer tags, so it's like you don't know who you're talking to, but you will soon learn.
I love this. We'd better wrap up.
Yeah, sorry.
No. This is wonderful. I think I can speak for everyone. I mean, I know I personally learned a ton, and I think everyone, and good. Also I'm starting to do this. Sean Pratt gave me this idea. This is for everyone on YouTube that might be watching us in the future. Thank you very much for taking the time. And I hope that you learned a lot about Gamelit and Lit RPG and cyber steampunk.
Or any other kind of genre.
Brain fry. I think you lost me at the word math.
Yeah, I think I lost everyone, including myself.
Thanks so much, Dawn. I really, really appreciate you taking the time. I'm sorry I chased you, but I just knew it would be a fabulous call, and I'm never wrong. So it was wonderful.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been fun, I know.
You are fabulous. Thank you so much. Thanks. And thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'll post on the link.
Exactly.
Thank you. Fabulous. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, everyone.